Even though we're not quite there yet, I can finally start building proper enclosures for the new animal room. I'll start with a very specific type of paludarium that I've imagined for a while now. It will combine new elements with things I've used in previous builds, such as this enclosure. I custom built it for the bog orb filtered aquarium, which I recently dismantled because it wouldn't have transported well. I selected this one because it has the proper profile for what I want to create, and it also already has a frosted background as well as a self-leveling mat on the bottom, so it's ready to go. If you want to see how I originally constructed it or learn more about making tanks of your own, check out the links I put down in the video description after you're done watching this one. Anyway, my goal is to build up a series of mountains or islands, like this one, using black lava rock. I got this one from the self-watering Fern Rock Planter, which I also recently dismantled. To build it, I simply combined a few stones together with expanding foam. Once the foam cured, I peeled off the excess, hit it with some sphagnum moss, put it in that system for a few months, and here it is now. It's still looking good, but I gotta get it all cleaned off before we put it into the new setup so that I have a better idea of what else needs to be created. After getting it all sprayed off, I dropped it into the tank and began scaping. I had to rearrange things several times to properly fit around the original piece. I made 2 additional structures at first, but I thought it would look even better with only 2 islands. I think something like this complements the original quite well, and once they're covered with plants and elements like that, they'll look incredible. Before I can do any of that though, I have to lock it all together with expanding foam. I just lifted up the stones and applied foam between them. I also used it to cover the white foam on the original formation. I let it sit for a few hours and peeled off the excess. This actually blends with the stone quite well as is, so I won't have to do anything extra. The next thing I have to address is water flow and filtration. For that I have 2 small pumps, which I'll hook up to the stones in a way that water is constantly flowing over them. Of course this will look cool, but it will also serve important functions. It will water the plants that will be on top of these, as well as turn each stone into a filter. When we think about biological filtration for an aquarium, it's always something with a lot of surface area, such as lava rock. Because of this, the stones will actually create a very efficient filter. To do this, I'll hook the pumps up to some vinyl tubing and a T-barb that I'll strap onto the stones. Because this will all be exposed to water, stainless steel screws are the best option, but they won't go directly into the stones. Instead, I'll use a masonry drill bit to create holes for these anchors. I put the T's in the vinyl tubes to start. Then I drilled holes in the stones that line up with the straps. I put the anchors in these, which allowed me to lock it down with the screws. I created more holes near the front to make it all tighter with zip ties. After that, I put the pump on the opposite end of the tube. I secured their cords to the tubing as well. Lastly, I cut out a piece of filter sponge to cover the bottom of the pump and keep debris out. In the tank, you can't really see any of the hardware behind the stones, which is exactly what I wanted. I'll hide all of this in a moment as well. You may be wondering though, how am I going to service the pumps? Well, it's pretty easy actually. I'll just take the entire Scape out like this, service the pumps, put it back in, and enjoy the tank once more. Anyway, time to get it set up, starting with sphagnum moss, fishing line, and a mix of various mosses. I started by hiding the foam and other areas with moss. I tied it on with the fishing line to keep it isolated to these areas. I think the pops of green really add to the look I'm trying to achieve here. I went on to cover the tops of the rocks with sphagnum moss. As I start to add sphagnum moss to these structures, I want to add the plants as well. And what you'll see here is that I have one of the orbs from the bog orb filtered aquarium, and the plants are going crazy, but I thought this would be a good opportunity to reuse these for this build. I pulled those plants from the orb and situated them on top of the rocks. This creeping fig, for example, I have fixed within the moss and added more as needed to ensure the roots stay hydrated. I went back and trimmed off some of the longer vines. I added other plants the same exact way. I got the islands all planted up, and although I may adjust a few things here in a little bit, I think they look pretty cool. I also added some water down here to the bottom so I could test out the pumps. As expected, the pumps worked perfectly right away. This means I can proceed with the design. My vision for this tank was to keep it very minimal. I felt that having high contrast with white sand would add to that as well. I poured a good layer down in the bottom after I removed the water. I don't know about you, but I think that really added to the vibe. I gotta fill it back up to get a better idea of how it will all look. I also evened out the sand to make it look more cohesive. I got the pumps up and running once more, and I think the tank is looking pretty good. Initially, I was thinking I would do more with the islands, but I like how all of this looks. Plus, I can adjust and change things as they grow in. I think this is one of those times where less is more. The negative space and simplicity of it all is exactly what I wanted to achieve. I personally think that the minimal nature of it all truly showcases the plants, hardscape, and fish, which I'm gonna add now. I decided to go with a nice group of glow light danios. They have some beautiful iridescent colors to them that I thought would really pop in this setup. And there you have it, the minimal mountain island scape. As I've been saying, I think it's a really intriguing tank to observe, and even more so now with the fish. It's so awesome to watch them school through the open waters and around the hardscape. I'm always wondering, where are they gonna go next? And seeing this all reaffirmed to me that glow light danios were a great choice because of how tightly they school. I'm very excited to see how this all progresses, and I have a few additional ideas that I'll implement down the road as well. I'm curious to know your thoughts though. I realize that not everyone will like a scape like this, but nonetheless, I'm curious to know. Let me know down in the comments and leave the video with a like if you enjoyed it. Anyway, that's all I have for you in this one. Until next time, Serpa Squad, take care and peace.